Chicago Open, round number 4. This is against another expert playing the white pieces, and the big takeaway this game is to not let your guard down. I start out d4, c4, g3. I'm going for a Catalan. And this is one of the most common lines that I see in Blitz. So I've had a lot of experience with this in Blitz. Players love to throw this bishop b4 check-in, either here or on the last move, and then they'll play d5, transposing to this exact position. The most common move here is bishop to d2, and most players expect this. We have a ChessGoals Catalan course, and in that course, I recommend knight to d2. It's the second most common move, but it really throws people off. And I have a lot of opponents in Blitz that will see knight to d2, and in a 3-minute game, they'll go into a 20-second think because they don't have a line ready to go, and that's at the 2400 Blitz level. So here my opponent castles. He plays b6, bishop to b7, and up until this point, this is all kind of mainline theory. He's got both bishops on normal squares. He's looking to play c5 at some point. And the best way, I think, to play for an advantage here is knight to e5. It's a slight advantage, but the idea is you cut across the diagonal, you pin this pawn on d5 to that bishop. So now there's no easy d takes c. And then the plan is to play a3, b4, and expand on the queen side. So I knew the plan about the queen side expansion, and here I decided to relieve the tension. It's not a terrible move, because sometimes this pawn structure with the Fiend, Qe2, and the D pawn can be a liability for black, but I think it would have just been a little bit better for me to keep that tension between the two pawns. This tension favors the white pawn right now. Let's go into that just briefly. When the two pawns attack each other, look at the options for each pawn. This one has 3 options: push, take, or sit. This one has 2, sit or take. And if you can create a scenario like knight e5 where the opponent doesn't have any great options besides just sitting still, that's when you really have an advantage in this pawn tension. So that's why knight e5 is just a little bit better practical chances. Instead I take, then I play a3, knight e5, and the position's about equal here. At this point, I was really starting to have trouble figuring out a plan, and I don't know why I was so confused. I think, again, it's kind of going back to my mental state. I was second guessing myself a lot this tournament. And I just had that crazy game the night before round 3 in the Caro-Kann with all those brilliant moves by my opponent. The best plan here, I think, is to go b4, bishop b2, knight f3, and just kind of build this stronghold on the e5 square and try to keep control of the c5 square because black would love to get this pawn break in. And here is a position that you can just slow play a little bit. Put the queen on c2, maybe push these up onto the light squares, bring the rooks to the center. Very comfortable position for white, and I think good winning chances. So I played knight f3. Opponent trades knights for Qe8. And the next couple of moves, b4 would have been a great idea. So b4 here, b4 on the next move. I just missed it a few times. I played knight d3, and you can see the eval bar starting to give black a slight advantage. Whenever you don't have a good plan, and your opponent does, that's where that eval bar can start swinging to their favor. I don't have a great plan. My opponent knows what he wants to do. So he's making some progress here. I think at this point, I got afraid and I thought, let's just simplify. And this is one of my takeaways from other tournaments as well. I'm too quick to trade down. I should have played rook to c1 here. And this gives me a slight edge. After c6, e3, that pawn doesn't get to the square that it really wants to, c5. And all my pieces are pretty well placed right now. Both bishops are sitting nicely, cutting across the board. The knight's doing a good job on d3, hitting these dark squares. Everything's pretty comfy. But instead, go for this trade. Take, take. Now c5. And you can already feel in this position black has more space and the initiative, right? Black is starting to press the action. I can't take here because my knight drops. So it's that same situation with the pawn tension we talked about before, but the colors are reversed. So here this pawn tension favors my opponent, and I cannot take. All that I can do is leave this pawn here. Now at this point, it would be best to keep this knight active. Play rook c1, e3, and then maybe play f4, queen a4. Keep that knight planted on e5 as long as possible. Try to provoke pawn weakness. See if you can get the opponent to play f6. But instead, I played passively. Knight f3. Look at the eval bar. Black is up half a pawn. Queen f6. He's starting to apply pressure. Double attack here. He's got these pieces eyeing the f2 pawn. This bishop is ready to come to a6, hitting the rook. And I kind of walk right into it. I play e3. I'm just opening up the diagonal for his bishop on a6, poking my rook. And if the rook moves, then f2 becomes weak. So all of this is connected, right? My opponent is doing a great job, and I'm helping him create weaknesses in my camp. Rook a c8. It's an inaccuracy. He should go bishop a6 right away. And after rook e1, pawn to g5, threatening g4, hitting the knight. And if the knight moves, queen takes f2. I was really afraid of this line during the game. I thought for sure he was going to go bishop a6, g5, and I didn't know how I would get out of it. I didn't have that planned out. Rook a c8, queen a4. So I'm fighting for activity. Plays a5. And really, I'm kind of watching this threat. Put the queen on a4 to make sure he can't go bishop a6. He goes here, rook a c1. Missed opportunity again by black. He has the same idea. Bishop a6 and g5. But he goes bishop c6. This was definitely a missed opportunity, and now it's not so easy for his bishop to attack the rook because my queen is sitting on b3. He goes rook b8, queen d3. So now the queen guards this diagonal completely, and I'm sort of playing a waiting game. I don't have much that I can do to push the action, but I'm waiting to counterattack. c4. I was very happy to see this. Now look at how bad that bishop is. So this goes back to the pawn tension. I don't want to take here and give black half-open b file. Pawns on the 5th rank connected with no center pawns for myself. I'm stuck sitting. So why is my opponent relieving the tension? Unless there's a great reason behind this where you can improve your position, you don't want to play moves like this when the tension favors you. I was happy to see this. That's a bad bishop. And what I want to do now is just trade off this knight, either for my knight or for my bishop, and then play against the bad bishop long term. Queen d6, knight e5. Now, in this case, I do have a threat. Bishop takes knight, pawn takes, and win the c pawn. So it's like an immediate tactical threat. But I also have this plan. If I can create a situation where I have this knight, my opponent has this bishop, and these two trade off, it's a good knight against bad bishop. It's a bad bishop because it's on the same color as all black's pawns. And my knight can jump around and work around the bad bishop. So it's kind of a classic good knight, bad bishop scenario. My opponent knows this. He plays f6. He would love for me to take. And funny enough, that is the strongest move by a little bit. But I took here, creating that trying to create that imbalance I wanted. I don't quite get the one I wanted, but I still get a good bishop against a bad one. This pawn is pinned, cannot push. This bishop is bad. It's on the color of these. So if you can picture just a couple moves ahead, how do we want the white pieces set up to convert this win? All we need is a rook on d4. If I can park a rook on d4, pile up the pressure on the d pawn, this game becomes very easy to play for white and very difficult to play for black. So my opponent goes rook c8, a mistake. I go rook f to d1, and he doesn't really try to slow down this plan at all. So here I play, I wanted to play, let's see. Yeah, I wanted to play rook d4, but the reason it doesn't work is because queen takes d4, and this e pawn is pinned to my queen. So rook d4 right here is a blunder. It just drops a rook. I move the queen out of the way. Rook d4 coming next. And here I felt like I was close to winning. I was getting very excited during the game. Rook c to d8 played. Here the most accurate move is to play rook c to d1, but I do a little bit of shuffling. I wasn't quite sure the best setup. I start with queen d2. He counterattacks on f2, so see rook and queen lined up, so I got to keep my queen watching the pawn. Rook d1. This was kind of just a cute little in-between move. I knew he was going to go bishop a4 to get me off of this pawn. Then I played rook f1. So my rook took 2 moves to get here, but he put the bishop right back on c6. So I kind of got a free move. to guard the f-pawn. And now I finally figure out, oh, the queen is best on c2, and I'll put the rook on d1 next. I get this set up, ideal position, bishop c6, and here I'm convinced that I'm winning because this pawn is triple attacked. Bishop, rook, rook. My opponent was very sneaky. He played bishop c6, and he knew that if I grabbed the pawn, he had a tactic. All I need to play here to get what should be a winning position is rook 1 to d2. And if he plays like b5, take the pawn on the next move. Instead, I take d5, and my opponent immediately blitzes out the brilliant move, bishop to a4. I let my guard down. I didn't even look for tactics. It felt like a position where I had so much control of everything. I didn't even need to look at tactics, right? All I really need to look at is, what happens if he takes? Can I keep f2 guarded? Looks pretty simple, right? Queen guards f2. These two rooks are ready to take on d5. Just straight win of a pawn and probably heading towards a 1 game. Bishop takes d5, bishop a4, brilliant move. And here I had to start calculating. I hope I'm not losing this game. And fortunately, I had just enough to make it so that a perpetual check was the best for black. Took a4, he takes f2, only move. And now he found the best move. It's the only way to get the draw for black. Rook takes d5. I have to take. Now perpetual check. Queen f3, queen f2. Unfortunately for me, with the king on h1, the rook does guard f1. Otherwise, I'd just be mated here. So I lucked out that it wasn't lost. But big takeaway from that is don't let your guard down when you have control of the position. And I think overall, I had pretty solid play. I had good time management. I was up on time at the end. I played deeper into the end game than some of those previous quick draws I had in rounds 1 and 2. But improvements, I think I need to work on the planning out of this opening. Don't play too passively, and then don't let my guard down when converting the win. So that's the recap. That's round number 3 of the Chicago Open. Next, we will be looking at, that was round number 4. Next, we're going to look at round number 6. So if you're looking for round 5, look for the thumbnail that has the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle on it. It's called like Tartakower. That's round 5. Round 6 video will be posted next. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you in the next recap.